We're all ready. We're going to get this presentation started. So I will call the Committee of the Whole September 3rd to order. And our only item on the agenda is a presentation by Ken of Ellers Investment Partners regarding an investment of city funds. So I think Ken's going to come up to the table here. You all should have gotten the handout that he just passed out. This is something that we do annually, just to get a brief update on the investments that we hold. So Ken will provide an update, answer any questions you have, and then if anything pops up after the fact, you can contact either Elissa or myself. So with that, turn over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, thank you very much, and thank you all for taking the time to hear me tonight. And just as an addition, Chance from our firm is also here. Jonathan is a municipal advisor with the firm. I am an investment advisor. Had a couple different things, different licensures and things like that, but Jonathan is here just to lend some moral support for me and make sure I stay on track. But as Mayor McFarland mentioned, what I like to do is just talk about the city's investments, what we've been doing, what's going on with them, and give you the opportunity to ask me any questions you want, as long as it pertains to investments. You know, if you want to ask me about why the weather is like this or whatever, I can't answer that, but I'll answer any questions I can about your investments. So what I would like to do is just start off by, as Mayor mentioned, we'll do this at least once a year for you. If you would like it more often, you know, we can do that as well, but we will do it at least once a year. But what I would like to do is focus on this investment review as it pertains to the objectives that you have set for the city's investments in your investment policy. So we're going to concentrate on the safety, liquidity, and yield, which are the objectives of your investments that you have in your investment policy. The first thing I will mention, though, is the investment policy, which, according to what I have, was last reviewed in December 2015, reviewed and updated in 2015. We suggest that you review it at least every 3 years. Now, in our review, I wouldn't suggest any changes be made to it or any revisions. Everything is fine in it, but you may want to make it a practice to either the committee as the whole, a finance committee, the full city council, just to review it. I say at least every 3 years, so there's something in the minutes that says, yes, we reviewed it, everything looks fine, or we reviewed it and we made these changes, you know, and things of that nature, okay? So I say I don't suggest any revisions or changes to it right now, but that doesn't mean that, that you couldn't do that in your review as well, but I would suggest that, okay? At the end of August, we managed, Ellers Investment Partners managed $3.3 million in the city's investments in five different accounts, okay? We have a couple of TID accounts, a couple of water, wastewater, and then the general account for the city. But all of those put together at a market value at the end of August of $13.3 million. From a safety perspective, there's a couple of things that we look at with safety, and you outline risks in your investment policy. And a couple of those risks are the risk of default. Will an issuer be able to pay you your principal and interest when due? And custodial risk is that the people that are holding your investments, whether it's a bank or a custodian, are they going to be able to give you these things when they're called upon to give them to you? So with that in mind, we like to put some numbers on some things. That's what we do as investment guys. We put numbers on stuff. And at the end of August, 47.3% of your investments were in FDIC-insured certificates of deposit. Okay? A little less than that, 47.2%, was in U.S. Treasury and U.S. government-sponsored enterprise securities. About 5% was in cash that was either in an FDIC-insured money market account or in a money market mutual fund that was all invested in government securities, okay? And less than 1%, you own one municipal security, highly rated municipal security, okay? So with all of those things in mind, especially that, nearly 95% of your investments are either backed by the FDIC or U.S. government or one of its agencies or enterprises, you have very little risk of default, okay? Really, everybody's going to be able to pay a principal and interest when it's due, okay? Your other risk is custodial risk, and we don't hold your investments. A third-party investment does that. TD Ameritrade Institutional is the custodian that holds those investments. And you are free to work with any custodian that you would like, okay? TD Ameritrade Institutional is our main custodian. About 98% of the almost $1 billion we manage is held with TD Ameritrade Institutional. And one of the reasons we do that we use them as the main custodian is that they're part of the Toronto Dominion Bank family, if you will. And as the name implies, Toronto Dominion is a bank based in Canada, the highest rated bank in North America, okay? Even higher rated than any U.S. domiciled bank, Bank of America, U.S. Bank, anything like that. So that's one of the main reasons that we chose them. Plus, they have all kinds of other insurance and coverage with the Securities Investments Protection Corp. and their own banking security and such. So that's the main reason we choose them. Also, it's got something to do with cost. They provide their custodial service at no charge to you, okay? Where we could work with any custodian, but then if that custodian charged a fee for their service, then we'd have to pass that fee along to our clients, okay? So the safety of the investments themselves and the safety of the custodian. So if I can't say this, or I can't guarantee that you'll never experience a loss because of a default, but if you assigned a number to it, there's almost a zero risk that that'll ever happen to any of your investments, okay? Your next objective is liquidity. How quickly can you take any of the investments and actually turn them into cash, okay? What we do with this, again, we assign a number to it. We take all of your investments and calculate an average weighted maturity. If you took all of these things put together, on average, when would everything mature? And your average weighted maturity is about 10 months. A year ago, it was about almost 1.5 years. So we've really shortened up the average weighted maturity for you, and the main reason for that is interest rates were going higher. So we didn't want to invest long-term and miss out on anything as interest rates went up. So we kind of shortened things up, split some investments into smaller pieces and made maturities sooner for that. So that's the main reason for that. But what it does, it also makes you more liquid, okay? So, you have a lot of investments that are close to maturity within a few months, plus everything that you own is a tradable security. And it's very tradable in that there are huge markets for especially the government securities, even the CDs. So if Elissa called me tomorrow and said, hey, we need $1 million today. Fine. We can go through the list, we can sell securities, and you'll have the $1 million, okay? So everything is liquid and everything is close to maturity. We're gonna turn it into cash very quickly. I'll talk about this maybe a little bit more in detail as we go on here, but now as interest rates are falling, one of the strategies we might wanna start looking at is lengthening that and locking in yields before they go much lower, okay? The last thing we'll talk about is your yield, okay? You do this so you can get a decent return on your investments. So your average weighted yield to maturity of the entire portfolio was about a little shy of 2.2%, okay? And part of that is because you have this fixed portfolio and things are changing, you're adding, you're reinvesting, things like that. So as interest rates rise, it takes a little while to bring that up, okay? But as interest rates fall, that is not gonna fall as quickly as well. So, and as an example of that, if you're not familiar with the local government investment pool, it's a pool of investments run by the state of Wisconsin that is only available to local governments. That, for the 12 months that ended at the end of July, the rate on that averaged 2.34%, okay? So you're getting just about the same as the local government investment pool. And the same kind of investments, the same kind of thing that the LGIP invests in is what you are investing in, okay? The next page is just some comments on what we see in the market, mainly what's happening with interest rates. To me, one of the scary things is that graph right at the top. The blue line was the Treasury yield curve a year ago, and the orange line is what that same curve is today. And what that does is it measures interest rates over a time span, and in this case, from 3 years out to 10 years. So you see, a year ago, it was pretty flat. And now, not only is it flat, it's inverted, which means that short-term rates are actually higher than long-term rates, right? And I'm sure you've been reading just a ton of stuff, how, the economy's slowing down, we might be having a recession, all these kind of things. To be honest with you, I have no idea what's gonna happen, okay? But what that orange line does is, over the last 30 years or so, the last 7 recessions that we've had, that orange line happened within a couple of months of that. So historically speaking, if this is any evidence, we're gonna have a recession pretty relatively soon, and rates are gonna be low and all of that. Will that really happen? Heck, I don't know, okay? But historically, it has. The last couple of pages are just some graphs and charts that put all this narrative into the numbers. So with that said, any comments, questions, I'd be happy to answer.
I guess, I had a question on, so the local government investment pool, that's about 5% more than we're making, right? I mean, when you look at it, I mean, even though it's only a point, overall, that's about 5%, right?
Correct, yep.
Why aren't we doing that? Why would-
You are, here's what we've done with your investments, okay? You are only permitted, as a local government, to invest in fixed income security, and only the safest kind, treasuries, agencies, CDs, things like that. There's 66.0603 of the state statute says this is the stuff you can do, okay? So when you create this fixed income portfolio, okay, what you would love to see is a positive sloping yield curve going up. And if interest rates never change, you're as good as gold, okay? You'll always outperform the local government investment pool, okay? Or any short-term fund like that.
And why is that? Because they're all short-term?
Right, the local government investment pool, their mandate is they can't have an average weighted maturity of, I think it's 120 days, okay?
Okay.
Where what we like to see, what we try to do for our clients is to create a portfolio with an average weighted maturity of about 3 years, okay? And that way you're always taking advantage of those longer rates. Well, when interest rates have increased, like we've seen over the last couple of years, I mean, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, the local government investment pool was only yielding 0.5%. Okay, so it went up, its highest point was like 248 2 months ago, all right? So when things rise that quickly, you know, and especially those short-term rates like that, it takes a while for you that can only invest in fixed income securities and have invested in a portfolio of a longer average weighted maturity, it takes time for you to catch up
I see that.
to that.
So
Okay,
there was a big swing, so they're gonna see it in the short term.
Right.
But then they'll swing back the other way, and we've got a little more.
And, right, so in a year from now, when the local government investment pool has averaged 1.8% for the last 12 months, you will average, I'm just, you know, seeing where things are going, you will average maybe 2.3% for those same 12 months. So what we try to do is with those short-term pools like that, the LGIP, they go like this. Just like I said, 2.5 years ago, they were at 0.5%. Okay, they went up to 248 and left in about 2 years. And now it's starting to fall. Okay, so 6 months from now, the local government investment pool could be 1.5%, right? So what we try to do with this is to level that out for you. In 2007, the LGIP, if you had $1 million in the LGIP in 2007, you earned a little over $50,000. By 2010, for that same $1 million, you didn't even earn $1,000. Okay, so that's what happens in those kind of pools. So what we try to do is even out that interest income for you, so you can count on, you know, that relative stability month after month, year after year.
Got it.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Ken.
Great, thank you for your time. And if you do have any questions, feel free. Okay?
Thank you. Okay, so with that, we will adjourn the committee of the whole, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Okay, I need to take a motion. invocation. Rev Ray from Advent Christian is here with us this evening. If you'd like to join, please stand.
Scripture reminds us, first of all, then, I urge that supplications, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgiving be made for all people, for kings and mayors and older people and all who are in high positions, that we may lead a peaceful and quiet life, godly and dignified in every way. Father God, we do thank you for this day that you have blessed us with. The psalmist reminds us that this is the day the Lord has made, and we are called to rejoice and be glad. And Lord, there is much to rejoice in as we live in this community of Watertown. And Lord, I thank you for all of these people who give of their time and of their energies to serve our community, whether all the committee meetings that they are on and for the council meeting. And Father, I pray that your Spirit would give to them great wisdom about all the decisions that they need to make, not only tonight, but in every time they gather together. We thank you for our mayor and for all of those who assist her. And Father, we are just so grateful for the public servants, for police and firemen, for the EMTs, and all of those who are there to help us when there is that need. Father, you have blessed us in so many ways. So help us, Father, to know how to bless others, and especially those in need. Father, we pray this in your Son's name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm going to call the Common Council meeting of September 3rd to order. Elissa, will you please call the roll?
Mudler,
Here.
Tortomasi. Here. Britton,
Here.
Larson,
Here.
Holthouse. Here. Rather,
Here.
Schmidt,
Here.
Marone,
Here.
Phillips.
Here. All right, if you would please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our first item is the minutes of the council meeting from August 20th. Any changes or comments or questions to the minutes? Okay. Our next item is comments and suggestions from citizens present. Seeing none, I assume. Okay. Next is committee reports. We have the Finance Committee of August 26th, the Plan Commission of August 26th, and the Public Works Commission of August 27th. Any questions or comments there? All right. Next is communications and recommendations. You have a couple or a few appointments that I'd like for you to consider.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you. Motion by Marone, seconded by Rather. Any comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next item is the accounts payable. Motion by Kilps, seconded by
I'll second.
Larson. Any questions on the accounts?
Mayor,
Sure.
I noticed there's a lot of charges for beverages and ice and things for Riverfest, and I was curious, because a citizen asked me during Riverfest, does the city make any money on this part? And I said, gee, I don't know if we do or not. I think it's a push. Do we get an accounting at all for Riverfest?
Do we do an,
We can, if you'd like it. I think their total profit last year was right around $3,000. So basically, the money that they bring in goes out to,
Yeah, so
It's a festival.
it's about a no cost to the city?
it's a completely separate fund.
Yeah.
So it's not taxpayer funded at all.
Great, thank you.
you see it in the accounts payable because they submit their bills. We essentially do the transaction. Yeah. Good question, though. Any other questions? Elissa?
Phillips,
Aye.
Mudler,
Aye.
Tortomasi.
Aye.
Britton,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Holthouse. Aye. Rather,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Aye.
Marone.
Aye.
All right, our next is the reports and miscellaneous business. We have Branding Committee of August 21st, Payroll Summary of August 14th to 27th, and the Site Plan Review Committee from August 26th. Any comments or questions on those minutes? All right, Licenses. We have a temporary Class B wine license from the Watertown Area Chamber of Commerce. This is for the annual wine walk at Brown Shoes at 212 East Main from 5:30 to 9 PM on Thursday, September 12th.
I'll move for approval.
Thank you. Motion by Larson, seconded by Kilps. Any questions?
This is at several locations, though, not just at Brown Shoes, right?
If I'm remembering correctly, this is a substitution.
Correct, one pulled out, and so there's a substitution
Okay.
taking that place.
Yep.
Yeah, there's like 13,
Yeah.
I think, locations, but yeah, it's just replacement of one of them.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, let's go to ordinances then. Our first is ordinance 19-14 to create Article 2, utility accommodation under Chapter 457, Streets and Sidewalks. This is here from Alderman Marone in Public Works on the second reading.
I'll move for approval on the second reading.
Motion by Marone, seconded by Kilps. Any comments, questions? Elissa?
Marone,
Aye.
Kilps,
Aye.
Mudler,
Aye.
Tortomasi,
Aye.
Witten,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Bolthouse.
Aye.
Rather,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Abstain.
All right, our next is ordinance 1915. This is to amend Chapter 419 plumbing through the removal and addition of language to Section 419-10, street and sidewalk openings. Again, from Alderman Marone in Public Works on the second reading.
I'll move for
you.
1915 on second reading.
Motion by Larson,
I'll second.
seconded by Written. Comments? Elissa?
Larson,
Aye.
Bolthouse. Aye. Rather,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Aye.
Marone,
Aye.
Kilps,
Aye.
Mudler,
Aye.
Tortomasi,
Aye.
Witten,
Aye.
Thank you. Next is ordinance 19-16. This is to amend Chapter 457, Streets and Sidewalks, through the removal and addition of language to Section 457-6, Street and Sidewalk Openings. Here from Alderman Marone in Public Works on the second reading.
I'll move for ordinance 1916 on second reading.
Thank you. Motion by Rather, seconded by Marone. Comments, questions? Okay, Elissa?
Rather,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Abstain.
Marone,
Aye.
Kilps,
Aye.
Mudler,
Aye.
Tortomasi.
Aye.
Witten,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Bolthouse. Aye.
Thank you. Our next is ordinance 19-17, and this was to amend Chapter 457, Streets and Sidewalks, through the removal and addition of language to Section 457-7B, Paren 7, and creation of Section 457-7B, Paren 13, obstructions and encroachments. This is here from Alderman Marone in Public Works on the second reading.
I'll move for approval.
Thank you. Motion by Larson,
Second.
seconded by Tortomasi. I'm laughing because that's a mouthful, and I'm happy to not say it 4 times for the next 2 weeks. Jacob saw me as I was reading it. Any questions on this one? All right, Elissa?
Larson,
Aye.
Bolthouse. Aye. Rather,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Abstain.
Marone,
Aye.
Kilps,
Aye.
Mudler,
Aye.
Tortomasi,
Aye.
Witten,
Aye.
All right, our next is ordinance 19-18, and this is to amend Chapter 550, the official zoning map, rezoning 217 North 5th Street from central business to two-family residential, TR 6. This is with a positive recommendation from me and the Plan Commission on the first reading.
Move to approve ordinance 1918.
Thank you. Motion by Tortomasi.
I'll second.
Seconded by Larson. Any comments on this one? Okay. Elissa?
Tortomasi,
Aye.
Witten,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Bolthouse. Aye. Rather,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Abstain.
Marone,
Aye.
Kilps,
Aye.
Mudler,
Aye.
All right, and our next is ordinance 19-19. This is to repeal section 76-24, exceptions to imposition of special charges. This is here from me and the Finance Committee on the first reading.
I'll move for first reading of ordinance 19-19.
Thank you. Motion by Rather, seconded by Marone. Any questions? All right, Elissa?
Rather,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Abstain.
Marone,
Aye.
Kilps,
Aye.
Mudler,
Aye.
Tortomasi,
Aye.
Witten,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Bolthouse. Aye.
Okay, let's move on to resolutions, and we have quite a few, all that pertain to money, so we'll be calling the roll on each of these. The first is Exhibit 8852. This is authorizing the purchase and installation of a new digital camera NVR for the police department. And this is here from me and the Finance Committee.
I'll move for 8852.
Thank you. Motion by Larson,
I'll second that.
seconded by Holthouse. Any questions on this one? Elissa?
Larson,
Aye.
Holthouse. Aye. Rather,
Aye.
Schmid,
Aye.
Marone,
Aye.
Kilps.
Aye.
Mudler,
Aye.
Tortomasi.
Aye.
Britton,
Aye.
All right, and our next is 8853. This is to authorize submitting an application for a DNR WAM grant in conjunction with the RDA application for a DNR WAM grant. And this is here from me and the Finance Committee. Thank you. Motion by Kilp, seconded by Rather. Any comments or questions? All right, Elissa?
Kilps,
Aye.
Mudler,
Aye.
Tortomasi.
Aye.
Britton,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Holthouse. Aye. Rather,
Aye.
Schmid,
Aye.
Marone,
Aye.
Thank you. Our next is Exhibit 8854. This is authorizing a second amendment to the agreement with John's Disposal Service, and this is here from Alderman Marone and Public Works.
I'll move for Exhibit 8854.
Thank you. Motion by Marone,
I'll second.
seconded by Larson. Any questions? Elissa?
Marone,
Aye.
Kilps,
Aye.
Mudler,
Aye.
Tortomasi.
Aye.
Britton,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Holthouse. Aye. Rather,
Aye.
Schmid,
Aye.
Our next is Exhibit 8855. This is adopting the Chapter 457 Streets and Sidewalks Fee Schedule. This is here from me and the Finance Committee.
I'll move for Exhibit 8855.
Thank you. Motion by Marone, seconded by Rather. Any questions on this one? Elissa?
Marone,
Aye.
Kilps,
Aye.
Mudler,
Aye.
Tortomasi.
Aye.
Britton,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Holthouse. Aye. Rather,
Aye.
Schmid,
Aye.
Our next is Exhibit 8856, and this is adopting the Chapter 419 Plumbing Fee Schedule. This is here from me and the Finance Committee.
I'll move for
Thank you.
8856.
Motion by Larson, seconded by
I'll second it.
Holthouse. Questions or comments? Elissa?
Larson,
Aye.
Holthouse. Aye. Rather,
Aye.
Schmid,
Aye.
Marone,
Aye.
Kilps,
Aye.
Mudler,
Aye.
Tortomasi.
Aye.
Britton,
Aye.
Thank you. Next is Exhibit 8857. This is approving the 2019 Annual Streets Design Change Order. This is here from me and the Finance Committee.
I'll move for approval.
Thank you. Motion by Larson,
Second.
seconded by Tortomasi. Any questions or comments? Elissa?
Larson,
Aye.
Holthouse. Aye. Rather,
Aye.
Schmid,
Aye.
Marone,
Aye.
Kilps,
Aye.
Mudler,
Aye.
Tortomasi.
Aye.
Britton,
Aye.
Our next is Exhibit 8858. This is approving change order number 1, final 2019 water main and sanitary sewer contract, and this is here from Alderman Marone and Public Works.
I'll move for Exhibit 8858.
Motion by Marone, seconded by Rather. Any questions? Elissa?
Marone,
Aye.
Kilps,
Aye.
Mudler,
Aye.
Tortomasi.
Aye.
Britton,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Holthouse. Aye. Rather,
Aye.
Schmid,
Aye.
All right, our next is Exhibit 8859. This is approving materials testing contract for the 2019 annual streets projects. This is here from Alderman Marone and Public Works.
I'll move for 8859.
Motion by Larson, seconded by Marone. Any questions? Elissa?
Larson,
Aye.
Holthouse. Aye. Rather,
Aye.
Schmid,
Aye.
Marone,
Aye.
Kilps,
Aye.
Mudler,
Aye.
Tortomasi.
Aye.
Britton,
Aye.
Next is Exhibit 8860. This is authorizing an increase in solid waste collection rates, and this is here from me and the Finance Committee.
I'll move for 8860.
Motion by Larson, seconded by Marone. Comments or questions? Alderman Tortomasi.
I think there's some more background here that should be stated for the public. Last year, the Public Works made it clear that we were going to be short this year, and that's when we enacted the charges for the drop-offs of goods in the recycling center. At that time, it was costing the city about $100,000 to take that material in and dispose of it. And that's where the $100,000 went into the budget, even though we knew that once we put fees on these things to recycle, the volume would drop, and we wouldn't make $100,000. So we went into the year knowing that we were going to be short. Both the Public Works and the Finance Committee attempted to add $1 to their fees last year. Previous administration told us they would not allow that. They would veto any increase to the fees. So this is a kick the can down the road to this year, to this administration. And I think it's important to state that we knew those recycling fees were going to go up tremendously because there's no market for recycling. It costs us money. So now we're faced with a 20% increase to try to break even. So that's a little bit of the background here. Another thing is, last year we added, it used to be the only the city was charged $11.73. Anything outside of the city that we picked up, and there's quite a few that we picked up, was increased by $5. So they're paying $16.73 to get their recycling and their trash picked up. When we go to 1408, their charges will go to 1908. And that could be the breaking point for these people, that they can get private recycling, private trash pickup for less than $19. Possibly. I don't know that for a fact, because their charges are gone up too. Their costs have gone up for getting rid of recycling and trash. But if we lose some 900 people that we're picking up for, I think that's a correct number, 90, I'm sorry, 90.
Yeah.
90 to 100. We'll lose that revenue.
Climate is 145
145
in climate, and then there's a handful.
around the city.
Just outside.
Yeah. So there's a possibility we'll lose some income there because they'll be charging 1908. Now, that's all good information, but the bottom line is we've just approved a $50 per ton fee at this meeting. If that happens, we're going to be way short again, and we'll be here again asking for more than 1408. So I guess I'm just trying to state a little history on what's happening here, and it's kind of out of our control because of the cost of recycling and disposing of the trash. So I think we're going to be here possibly before the end of the year looking at this again.
Thank you. I will just share, when we did the projections internally, which Elissa, Randy, and I spent weeks on, months on, we brought in that $50 a ton into our projections. So the good thing, though, in your comment that's very relevant is it's about $50 a ton. It could go to 60. That amount fluctuates over the course of the contract. So you're right, Alderman Tortomasi, there is some variability there, and I think what we've come to realize during this process of evaluating the solid waste rate is private pay goes up at least, the low end is about 4% a year, and the market dictates that being more or less depending, and we're going to have to be more aware and responsive to that so that we don't find ourselves in this predicament. So that we're dealing with smaller percentage-wise, smaller increases versus these larger increases over time. I do want to, before I turn the floor back over to all of you, this has been a very cooperative process. I'm incredibly thankful to Council President Marone for being a active participant in this conversation, and the Public Works Committee and the Finance Committee, which many of you are on. for really going through this. No one wants to be doing this, but it's unfortunately the position that we're in. So I just want to give my thanks as well, and I appreciate your comments very much. Alderman
If I
Pearson.
could make just one correction. Alderman Tortomasi mentioned that this came out of, that fee schedule came out of Public Works. In fact, the fee schedule for recycling was rejected at Public Works. That came out of Finance. Public Works recommended at that time, well, it was about a $3 a month increase that they felt was sufficient to cover the cost. In hindsight, it would have been sufficient to cover the cost. But now what we're looking at is we have fees in place, and we're coming back asking for $2 plus. So just to avoid confusion on that. And just to echo what the mayor said, we looked at the numbers. This is sufficient to cover the cost where we are today. Any increase that we might see down the road, we would expect to be just a normal, smaller percentage increase maintenance costs, assuming that recycling fees don't go through the roof. And of course, they could go in the other direction too. It's a market-driven type cost. So there's some people that think it's peaked right now and that those numbers might come down, and we hope that that's the case.
I just wanted to point out also that in 2019 alone, I think at the beginning of the year, Randy, was it like $16 or $17 a ton we're paying?
Randy, why don't you come up to the microphone just so we can catch your responses? Oh, I was like, what happened? You may have to repeat that question by the time he gets up here.
Okay. I just kind of wanted to review where we started the year in 2019, what the charge was per ton, and what it's going to now, and it's like more than triple, I believe.
When we started 2019, it was $15.49 a ton, and now it's very projected to be 50.
Yeah, so that's
That's
just in
a very solid number.
2019 alone, it's more than triple.
Correct.
So that puts us where we are now with rather than, a 1%, 5%, this is what we need based on the market. I think it's going to turn around a little bit too, but we don't know that.
Hope so.
Yep.
I'd also like to say for the record that last week in the private sector, I had to bid out some residential service, and the low bid was $19.65 per month per unit. And that beat the next competitive rate of $24 per unit. So the city of Watertown, in my opinion, should be very grateful for the fact that we're still getting the fantastic curbside collection that we're getting for $14.08, because it's still an incredible bargain.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Alderman Schmidt.
Just a question on this. So with the approval, it's going to go up to the 1408. If the market goes in our favor and we're not paying $50 a ton like we're forecasting, we go back to the 1549, are we then going to bank the difference for events like this when they happen again if it's market driven, or are we going to then reduce it and give the savings back to our residents because they're getting taxed every direction by everybody in small incremental pieces? And even if they're getting that 4% increase on their wages, between the state, us, and the federal, we're taking it away double.
Sure.
So I see the value added because no one wants trash in their yard, which makes sense. But I want to make sure that we're looking at that from that angle as well.
I think, and I don't want to speak for everyone. I think we all hear you completely. I mean, that's the sentiment I've heard in both Public Works and Finance. I'm not going to say that this isn't a decision that I would single-handedly make. It would be at the mercy of this council if we would revisit the rate. I can tell you, if the market turns around and we're suddenly not paying $50 a ton, our fund balance could benefit from some health. So from building up that fund balance again over time. And once that is in a position where we feel we're more comfortable, perhaps it would be my preference to then look at it going back down. But that would be really a decision for you all to make. That would be for you guys to request for us to put on an agenda and have a discussion about.
Okay.
Yep.
The other advantage of building the fund balance is as we need to replace trucks and equipment, if we can take that money directly out of that account rather than borrow money that's paid back over 20 years and the vehicle lasts 10 years. So fund balance is important here.
Any other comments or thoughts?
I'll comment on that. Since Alderman Schmidt brought it up, I I'd like to see us come up with a way to isolate those funds, because that market fluctuates, and if we're making money, say, 3 years in a row on recycling, and we're selling it and we make a profit, rather than just push that into the general fund, keep that and track it so that when that market goes in the other direction, we really know if we're in the red or we're in the black. Because what ultimately happens is we're charging a fee, we're doing fine, we're making $100,000 a year on recycling, and then suddenly things turn around, we're like, oh, we lost $50,000, we've got to act, and we're in a panic without the reference of having a fund going, this fund is healthy, we can take that hit for 2 years and know it's sustainable. But because the money just gets rolled into the general fund and absorbed, now we can track those dollars, but on something that's in that fluctuating market, I think we need to come up with a system to try to protect that fund if it's possible.
So I just want to clarify, anything, so the solid waste budget is Fund 17, I believe? So that's outside of our general fund. So anything that comes in revenue-wise for solid waste will stay in Fund 17. What we could have that would just go in Fund 17's fund balance versus the general fund. What we could have a conversation about, and I don't want to speak out of turn here, is if there's a portion of that we want to have restricted or something within Fund 17, and that we can have a discussion about and see if we're able to accommodate that. But all that revenue that comes in and the expenses that go out will stay in Fund 17. We don't push any of that into the general fund.
Okay.
Alderman, Mudler. I almost said Marone.
So I understand.
Oh,
I'm a kitty cat today.
I see that.
Also, a point of clarification that I think is important. The increase is largely due to the increase in our recycling costs. But that fee structure that Alderman Tortomasi spoke of, that's going to be revisited as well. And we're going to make sure that we have those expenses covered. And, basically, we're taking in what's going out. And the plan is to take a good, hard look at that in the next month or 2 or 3 to make sure we're doing the right thing there in terms of the fees. And the biggest reason why we didn't hit that $100,000 was because the people from out of the city that took all of their stuff to us for free stopped doing it. Okay, so that's a benefit to us as well in terms of that fee structure.
Definitely.
Alderman Marone, did you have anything else? I thought your hand was up before.
Nope.
Oh, it's written.
I just like a little history, and maybe I should have brought it up on the earlier resolution, but Alderman Mudler mentioned that shopping around for rates. I can only assume that we're kind of limited on where we can take our recycling, like 1 or 2 places, and
2, and we shopped it out.
and
The other one was about $60, I think.
62.
62.
okay.
So I think it's Horicon and Whitewater.
Correct.
I've learned more about solid waste than any one person needs to know.
I didn't see that in the write-up.
No, that's a good question. I'm glad you asked that. Anybody, Alderman
Yeah,
Tortomasi?
I appreciate this discussion. It's really good because people don't understand. I got some calls on this and says, oh, because you're picking up
Yeah,
everything every week now, you're charging us more money. And the second one was, well, I don't fill up my cans. Why am I paying full price? Well, we all share in the city together. We all share our services. So whether you get picked up once a month or every week, the fee is the same.
I appreciate that comment. It was one of my early comments to Randy was, come on, we just did weekly recycling. Everyone's going to think this is connected, but it couldn't be further from, there's no correlation there whatsoever. Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
All right. With that, Elissa?
Larson,
Aye.
Holthouse. Aye. Rather,
Aye.
Schmid,
Aye.
Marone,
Aye.
Hilps. Aye. Mudler,
Aye.
Tortomasi.
I,
Britton.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Our last resolution for this evening is 8861. This is approving a revised municipal bond deposit schedule. And this is here from our municipal judge suite. Thank you.
I'll move for 8861.
Motion by Rather, seconded by Marone. Any questions on this?
Just a clarification, this is in forfeiture of a violation, I'm assuming, of some nature that the judge is setting,
Yes.
like asset
That's the correct
forfeiture?
answer.
This is not asset
Oh.
forfeiture, these are forfeitures related to citations, the bond amounts for citations. The range is set by ordinance. The bond amount, which is usually somewhere in the middle of that range, is set at, by the municipal judge with approval by common council, which is governed by Chapter 800 of Wisconsin State Statute.
I believe we put a notation in here that this was largely formatting and housekeeping in nature. I don't believe many of the ranges, if any, changed.
Nope, the ranges couldn't change without amending the ordinances. There probably will be, hopefully, an amended bond schedule with some of the amounts changing down the road, which the judge is working on, but that's, I don't believe that's what this is.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, Melissa.
Rather,
Aye.
Schmid,
Abstain.
Marone,
Aye.
Kilps,
Aye.
Mudler,
Aye.
Portomasi,
Aye.
Britton,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Holthouse.
Aye.
All right, next is comments and suggestions from citizens. Seeing none, I will look for a motion to adjourn, please.
I'll move to adjourn.
Thank you. Motion by Larson, seconded by Ritten. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thanks, everyone.